into 3 parts. We're going to do 20 to 30 minutes in the next 3 episodes. And this episode, I'm going to focus specifically on the shots that killed Kennedy and how it's ridiculously obvious that they did not all come from behind him. But we'll get into the other. So for those of you listening, you're like, but you didn't talk about how Oswald, blah, blah, blah. We'll get into more of that next week and the week after. But we have other stuff on this episode as well.
Yeah, we're going to talk about, so we're going to talk about your JFK thing, and then we're going to talk about more evidence about Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton is somebody I'm sure you've talked about on Redacted. I've talked about it on my show, Political Vigilante. And we're going to go a little deeper on Fred Hampton, on how he was assassinated.
This is a big assassination week right here.
It is assassination week. But before we get into that, I mean, let's just talk about how exciting this inauguration is and the new Biden administration. And
oh my God, Eleanor Goldfield called it Operation Peaceful Transition, because D.C. has just been a fucking military war zone. We walked down there. You can't get anywhere near it. They have literally put up giant metal gates around the entire Capitol/White House area.
Wow. Now, on Inauguration Day, was there any protesters? Were there anybody out there celebrating? I mean, like, what was the...
Now, there was some reports of something between, some like Proud Boy type people and some cops at Union Station, but almost nothing. I mean, I think that the mainstream media was told to keep talking about how there were 25,000 National Guard here to dissuade white supremacist groups and Trump supremacists from coming to D.C., and they seem to have succeeded, because I didn't see any. But
hold on, sorry. Watching, easy, Siri. Watching that whole ceremony, I mean, I was like, this is just such what 2020 and now 2021 are going to be. It's just like, yay, Trump's gone, and great. Now Biden is like, and of course he could have signed via executive order Medicare for all, because we are in a crisis. He could have said, executive order, we are in a national crisis because of this pandemic. I am authorizing Medicare for all. But
yep. Section 1881A of the Social Security Act. He could have done it. # force the executive action, and he could still do it. But I don't. I mean, the Democrats love to point to Congress and say they can't do things. We can't do things because of the Republicans and everything. So it's not that they don't have these abilities. It's that they choose not to use them and try to say, oh, we just can't. And Trump kind of proved that a lot of this stuff can be done with executive action. Even if it were to go to the courts and everything, you'd still could probably give people health care for like a year while it worked its way through the courts. I mean,
right. And then how would that look? How are they going to sell that to a bunch of Americans? That's why they will never do it, because it's like, if everyone's already got free health care and they're like, how are they going to sell that? Oh, this health care is awful. All these Americans go, no, it's not. It's great. I love it.
Right.
And, it's better than my old health care, and it's free, and I'm not paying anything, and you're not taking it away. And because that's, once you give free health care, it's really hard to take it away.
It's funny how once you just join all of the other developed countries, you kind of like it. You're like, this ain't so bad,
Yeah. Oh wow, maybe socialism isn't such a horrible idea. And the other let's talk about some of the other executive action. So he's stopping the Keystone XL pipeline, which this is more of the, well, it'll remain to be seen, but this is again more of the charade that the Democrats and the willful, liberal corners of the corporate media. It's like Obama shut down the XL pipeline, and it's like, he shut it down but left it open to be reopened. I mean, he didn't really close it, so it's more of just that, like, performative acts that the Democratic Party likes to take, and then the media goes along and says it's fine. So it's like, I'm curious to know the specifics of this pipeline and what else is going to be opened up, because we know Obama and Vice President Biden opened up the Arctic to drilling twice. They laid down more pipelines than anybody else. So
right. Well, yeah, and part of it is that, yeah, the Keystone was already, Obama shut it down for a minute at the end of his, he waited till his final, month. So really Biden's just going back with what Obama did. But yeah, it's going to depend on what else Biden does for climate change. I mean, if it's just shutting down the Keystone XL, then that's, nearly nothing. But it also has to do with where we are now. I mean, climate change is making large swaths of the planet unlivable. Oil and gas are collapsing. Exxon says they may never recover from the combination of the fact that people are using less oil with the pandemic. So really, they are, the Democrats like to wait until an industry or a corporation basically no longer owns them, and then they go, we stood up to them. It's like, yeah, you stood up to them as they're collapsing.
Well, yeah, again, and this is the fear. I said during the whole Democratic primary a year and a half ago, I was like, if Biden gets in, he'll just, undo or put back in place the things Trump got rid of, and then everyone will go back to brunch. So it's like, we're back in the Paris Accord. We shut down the XL pipeline. Oh, wow, that's not enough. That's what the Paris Accord...
You know how important the Paris Accords are? Look at all the countries that have stayed in it. Have they solved climate change? No. They've done fuck all. Because the Paris Climate Accords have no teeth. They don't actually, enforce anything. And that's why you had big banks and, oil companies, toasting champagne glasses when it was signed. Yeah. And, Biden said no Green New Deal. He looked in the camera and said, I'm not going to ban fracking. So this is just more, and this will put the dummy liberals. The liberals are the dumbest people. They're dumber than MAGA. They're dumber than MAGA. Because they will go, yay, we did it. We got rid of big bad Trump. Now we'll go back to brunch. And it's like, oh, yay, you're so stupid. The Paris Accord does nothing. We're still having climate collapse. There's already people in Florida, literally. I saw this story that there's some neighborhoods in, Little Havana that are on higher ground that are now being gentrified because the people who have the big beachfront property are like, oh, this is flooding. This is going to be underwater soon. So we're pushing out, pushing out, working class people of color in a neighborhood to take their land. And so Florida's going to be underwater, but we're in the Paris Accord? Oh, okay, awesome. It's just it's more of these, Democratic half measures that they'll scream as these big wins, and dipshit liberals, most of them our generation is pretty stupid with the liberals. The liberal Gen Xer are pretty dumb. And oh yeah, the Paris Accord would be more useful if they took it all, printed it out, shredded it, and then stacked the bags on the edge of Florida to stop the water from coming in. I think then it might be useful.
Well, that is actual. Now that I'm on board with. That's a practical use of the Paris Accord.
Yeah,
print it up and all the idiot countries and liar politicians' names, and shred it and put it in plastic bags. Now we're getting somewhere with this.
Now we're getting somewhere, yeah.
This is the kind of real change I like, Lee. This is the kind of big action.
Yeah, that's why they call me the idea man. Yeah. A thought leader. We're thought leaders, Graham.
Lee Graham, thought leader. Because the shredding the bag thing is a long-term solution, without a doubt. I mean, that is the kind of change we're going to see. And, of course, now, Biden, I'm giving people $2,000 the minute I get in office. Well, now it's $14,000. Well, we're pushing it to March. Well, it might be more like April, but you'll get it.
$1,400.
$1,400, yeah. $1,400. And now they're talking about we might not get it until April. And
my favorite of the magically shrinking promises is we're going to get rid of $50,000 of student loan debt. Well, $25,000. Well, $10,000. Well, now I think that I read they're down to just we're stopping interest on student loans for now.
Again, Another thing could be done by executive action. 85% of student loans are federally backed, meaning the federal government, the president, could just say, we forgive them, and it's gone. It doesn't need to go to Congress. It doesn't need any sort of budget approval because it's not tax revenue. So it's just gone. And, and it's not going to do that. And then idiot liberals are going to go, yay, we did it. We cut the interest rate.